Detroit style is great for playing with extended fermentation, but too long can affect the taste. And too much yeast can leave people feeling bloated. The idea here is to get an airy dough with complex flavors like Neapolitan without overproofing or using too much yeast. Let's see how using a poolish will translate to pan pizzas. I'm starting with 150 grams each of bread flour and water. This Caputo yeast here is my go-to. It's an active dry yeast which usually requires blooming in water, but the instructions say to blend it into flour like an instant yeast. And it works amazing. I'll only be using a single gram for the poolish. I like to mix 2 to 3 grams of honey with the water when I'm doing a poolish. It helps kickstart the yeast and doesn't impart any flavor, but it's totally optional. Now we stir it up, cover, and set aside for 2 hours until we notice a few micro bubbles appearing on the sides. Then into the fridge it goes, overnight or up to 24 hours. The next day, we see a bit of rise and some more bubbles. But the best part is what we can't see, the flavor development. This is what we have after letting the poolish come to room temp for 4 hours. Now I'll add the remaining 105 grams of water, 200 grams flour, and 10 grams salt. Then knead and knead and knead. Working with dough can be sticky, so we have a cup of water nearby to wet your hands. After greasing your 10 by 14 pan with butter or oil, and let rest for 30 minutes. Then we can gently stretch the dough to fit the pan. You'll likely need to give it another rest in between stretches until it fully relaxes. Let the dough proof until it rises 2 to 3 hours. I fired up my OONI Volt to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Even though this is a 12-inch oven, it perfectly fits a 10 by 14 Detroit pan. I par-bake the dough for 4 minutes with the stone booster on before pulling it out to add the toppings. Brick cheese for authenticity, Bianco di Napoli tomatoes, and that's it. Now we can throw it back in the oven to finish off the bake. This is my first time using the Volt for Detroit, so I might make a few changes next time, but I love how you can adjust the heat to the top or bottom as needed. We got a great cheese melt, some nice crispy edges. But I'm a bit surprised at the crumb. It has a tight structure rather than bigger pockets of air. In fact, some air pockets formed under the crust. I've made a ton of Detroits, but never had this happen. Maybe something to do with how I balled the dough. But the bite and taste were noticeably different from my standard recipe, and with a much softer interior. We really like the results, but I'll play with some proofing techniques to improve it. Let me know if you try it.